The dunes at Pismo Beach. That's my subject for this 20 by 22 inch oil painting on canvas. The reference photo is pretty monochrome. There's not much going on in the warm and cool side of things. It's sort of all gathered towards the green and some grays and whites. So I'm going to push it and really accentuate the cool and the warm. I started out making a quick charcoal sketch to get a fix on values, composition, and shapes. I took a 22 by 20 canvas and sketched in with burnt umber the large shapes and some of the tonal properties of the painting. To start with a cool dark, it's pretty dark. That's fine, that's what we want. And mix in a little bit of the green as I go. And this green is Ivory Black and Cad Yellow Lemon. I want to maintain some life in the dark areas, not have it be completely a black hole. And the canvas being toned with the transparent red oxide acrylic really warms up the image, the canvas, and anywhere, like in this area here, I don't know if it picks up in the camera, but if my brush doesn't completely dig in and cover, then I get some of that warm glow coming through too, which is kind of nice. When I'm painting these trees, I'm concentrating on the edges. The interior areas, the colors, the solid masses aren't as important as getting the tree look correct by getting the edges correct. And what I mean by getting the tree look correct, I don't mean trying to match it perfectly to the species of tree. What I'm saying is I want the shape to be entertaining. I want it to flow with the rest of the painting and to have some vitality, some life to it. Again, I'm concentrating on the edge, and I load up the brush with multiple colors. I've got a lighter green and a darker green on the same brush. That gives me some nice organic looking shapes sometimes. Try not to overbrush things too, to try to maintain that look. I can put a few little dark marks. Try not to overwork it. Let's play with some more yellow here, brighten it up a little bit, but not too much. So we've got the darker, duller green, and then brighter in front here, pulling it forward. I decided to reduce the number of large trees or tall trees in the painting, varying it from the reference photo somewhat. That one tree on the left-hand side is really the only one that I'm keeping from the original reference photo. As you can tell from the finished painting, the rest of the trees, it's one mass or one shape, and it's differentiated by the tone differences and color differences. I do end up putting a couple of smaller trees around it there on the left-hand side. That's more of a happy accident, if you will, than anything. I don't think I planned that in the original charcoal sketch. I don't want this to be too different from the other side. That's the trap to avoid. I can get into is to make two different paintings on either side of the tree. It's almost better just to paint across and then come back in later. Now I'm going to work on the sky. The sky is a combination of cerulean blue and titanium white, and I'll vary that mix as I go down the canvas. I'm also going to work in some warm gray in the middle section there to the right of the tall tree, and that'll give us a feeling of fog or a cloud or something there just to break up that sky. I try to use as big a brush as I can for the sky, as long as I can, and then I switch to a smaller brush to cut in around the treetops. I do need to be careful to smooth that out or use the large brush over that again to create continuity in brush strokes and brush marks. I'm using the same cerulean blue and titanium white that I used in the sky, just a different mix for the shadow area in the dunes. Here you can really see how that transparent red oxide shows through, creating this chroma tension, if you will, or contrast in the dunes. You have the warm and cool right there mixed together. Here I'm using a mixture of titanium white, cadmium yellow, and Indian yellow to create that direct sunlight on the sand. Take out a little bit of sand here. Let's see, is that enough? Maybe something like that. I don't want these two to be the same height, so I'm going to pull some plant life down here, background plant life. Now I'm going to start working on this area here. This is where the sun is raking across some trees and foliage in the background beneath this canopy here, or maybe behind this canopy, sort of back and pushed back a bit. So the sun's coming across and hitting that and making it really glow nicely. And then I'll put in some more darks here to fill in some of the space as well. And then it'll create a nice contrast and complementary area with this fence here. Now I'm going to put in some of the sunlit areas beneath the trees. I'm using some cad yellow light and burnt sienna. As you'll see later in the process, I decided to make some changes to this area and change the fence a couple of times as well. As I start to put in some of the lighter areas around the major tree on the left, I discover that it might look good to have an additional tree or two, smaller, but in the middle ground back there. Now I'm going to start putting in the fence. And as I put in the first picket, you really see that contrast there between the dark foliage and the shadows and that first picket. This is really an opportunity to reflect some sky blue as well as some of the sand and some of that early morning light that's coming from the right. I'm going to put some darks in this area here. This got a little too light and too yellow, so I'm going to go with some dark foliage here, maybe some lighter accents to differentiate it from the rest. Needs to be pretty dark here, I think. And we'll put that fence back in. So this looks sort of big and boring right now, but keep in mind I'll be putting the fence pickets in here and they'll be scattered about. I've brought the tension back onto the fence. It's kind of what I wanted. I wanted this area right here to be the focal point. There are other focal points, other places of interest like here and here, but this is kind of my main intent. I decided to leave a gap in the fence and let some of that plant life grow right through out into the sand. The left side of the fence isn't as bright or interesting as the right-hand side of the fence. The right side is really the focal point. The left side just carries that theme out. I need to zip up this tree here. Now I'm going to work on the lower sand portion. This is a carved out area where the water flows from the land area to the sea during rainstorms. So there's some dark areas and some blue shade areas to sell the idea that this is some sort of a carve out or a shelf. Okay, I think I'm going to call this one done. Let's take a look at it real quickly here. So what I've done here is I've broken the fence into two pieces. Rather than have it go all the way across, I decided let's have some of the plant life coming through down here out to try to get to the beach or something. So that added this area as more of a focal point, I think, too. And it doesn't draw you out of the painting. Then we've got this really high contrast area here, the fence, with this dark shadow area. This plus this dark area here with the light sand path is also an area of interest. So really this is kind of the focal point area here. There might be some competing focal points there, but I'm not too worried about that. I also like the plant life, the trees against the sky, sort of an abstract look to it. And it's entertaining to look at, and that's the main thing. Then we've got the beach, the sand itself, the dune coming down to this ledge right here. This is where the water kind of flows through from the land to the sea, creates a little river during rainstorms. So it carves away some of the sand, and that's what this area is right here. So we've got some nice colors in the sand. The sand has a lot of color in it. There's blues and yellows and grays and violets up in here, as well as more blues. So it was real fun to paint. I hope you learned something or enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't hesitate to maybe subscribe or give me a thumbs up. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.